Good morning. Good morning, everyone. And thank you very much for joining this webinar organized in the framework of the Ready for It project and in collaboration with other two projects, CoolLIFE and Plan for Cold. Indeed, I start already thanking a lot all the speakers and my colleagues, Sonia as well, for supporting me and for participating to this webinar. My name is Francesca Tamburrini and I am EU Project Manager at the European Heat Pump Association, and today I'm very happy to be your host for the next hour and a half. And so before starting to introduce you today's topic, just want to know if the audience today is present and is ready to start. So if you would like, maybe you can share in the chat where you're coming from. So yeah, we know a little bit where the audience is located. So yeah, you should be able to write in the chat the city or the country you are coming from. And yeah, we, for example, the European Heat Pump Association is located in Belgium, in Brussels. So yeah, if you would like to share, yeah, today Brussels is shining. So yeah, we're very lucky. And so I think maybe we can already start with the introduction of the project. I see someone from Frankfurt. I hope it's sunny as well there. And no, close Germany, so I guess no. Okay, so first, London. Wow, very good. Very nice to see people from different countries, France, great. And so yeah, thanks a lot for joining us. I will start maybe with a quick introduction of the three projects that are today with us. I will only take a few minutes because the speakers will go into more detail later during their presentation. So maybe we can start with Plan for Cold. That is a live project and it aims to support the local authorities, particularly pilot cities in Italy, Greece and Portugal, to develop local heating and cooling plans. These heating and cooling plans will include an analysis and on how the municipalities can promote energy efficiency and renewable energy, but also comprehensively assess heating and cooling systems, considering each of the city's climatic infrastructure and economic context. And today, yeah, we are also meeting the project CoolLIFE. That is another LIFE project, which is aiming to address the need for a sustainable solution to the EU rising demand for space cooling in buildings. The project is developing an open source tools which encourage the consideration of green cooling solutions in public and private decision-making, planning, design, and implementation processes. And last but not least, Ready for It, of course, that is another LIFE project of 3 years with the aim of supporting the implementation of the RED provision on heating and cooling and assist the member states and the local authorities in that process. And yeah. The action of the project are mainly focusing on providing a better understanding of the shortcoming in the current strategies and proposing a set of recommendations to address them. All the action of the projects are also complemented with the development of different tools that we are going to see a little bit later, and the organization of capacity building events in the 5 target countries of the project. So today, the webinar is going to bring together experts from the 3 different consortium, and the idea is to discuss about the best strategies for integrating renewable energy and energy efficiency technologies into urban planning, as well as policy frameworks that support this shift, such as the Renewable Energy Directive and the Energy Efficiency Directive. So we hope that the participants will be able to gain insight into practical tools and the methodologies developed by these projects, including sustainable cooling technologies, local heating and cooling plan, policy recommendation for the national and municipality implementation. So as you can see the agenda, yeah, I'm quickly introducing the webinar, and later on we are going to start with the presentation. So there will be a first one from 3 speakers of Plan for Cold Consortium on heating and cooling plans, municipalities in action. Later we will continue with CoolLIFE, And Jean-Sébastien will provide a presentation on CoolLIFE's overview of policies for space cooling at EU and national levels. And we're going to end with a final presentation of Saverio from Ready for It consortium on decarbonizing heating and cooling. And yeah, the Ready for It journey so far. After that, there will be for sure some time for the panel discussion and the Q&A session before closing the events. And regarding that, yeah, one last thing before I introduce the speakers. So with Teams webinar, participants are not able to turn on the camera or the microphone, but still you will be able to write in the chat or in the Q&A section. So if you have any question you would like to ask to a speaker, please simply add it in the chat, tagging the person you are referring to, and we're going to take care of it. And say that, I think we can start with the first presentation. So here are the speakers, and I just take some more minutes to introduce them. So we will hear from Chiara Lazzari, that is graduated in physics at the University of Milan. For over 20 years, she has been involved in research and consultancy in the field of energy planning on a local scale. Her experience concerns in particular technical and operational support to public authorities and local government in the development of territorial strategies for climate change mitigation and implementation of plans for the promotion of energy efficiency. She has collaborated in the development of about 50 energy plans and over 150 sustainable energy action plans. And for more than 15 years, she has been involved in the development of the different project proposals for tenders at national, international level, and for European funding programs such as Horizon Europe, Horizon 2020, Interreg, LIFE, and much more. So yeah, thanks a lot, Chiara, for being here. I will just continue also with the other two speakers that are Riccardo Battisti, and he's as well coming from Ambiente Italia, that is joined in 2008, but he has worked in the energy and environmental field since 1999. And he was Secretary General of the Italian Solar Thermal Association, and he participated in 19 European projects, 3 as coordinator, 7 of which on district heating from renewable energy sources and waste heat. And yeah, he has a big experience in training activities on energy. He's author of more than 500 technical and scientific publications on energy. And yeah, author of a technical book in Italian on solar district heating that was published in 2013. Thanks a lot, Riccardo, for being here. And now I will introduce also Alicia Gopner. She's coming from Climate Alliance, and she has more than 4 years of experience in climate protection and adaptation projects in an international and European context. She holds a master in governance and public policy from the University of Passau in Germany. From 2020 to 2023, she worked in the project management support for KfW Development Bank, focusing on water, sewage, energy and waste projects in Jordan and Palestine. She joined Climate Alliance in 2023 as a project coordinator in the European Secretariat in Frankfurt, and she is currently working as communication officer for different projects. And yeah, she's part of the project coordination team of EU peers, and as well in the consortium of Project Plan for Cold. And yeah, say that, I think I can leave the floor to the first speaker that can easily take control of the presentation.
Thank you very much, Francesca. I will, for the introduction, maybe one day I will have as much project experience also as Riccardo and Chiara, let's see. So good morning from my side as well. Also, I'm very happy that as part of the Plan for Cold Consortium, we can participate in this webinar today. And I will begin our presentation briefly by giving you an overview of a Plan for Cold project. So to begin, we've already seen a little bit of this on the slides that Francesca shared. Our project will take 3 years. started last year in October 2024. Maybe just that the total budget is actually a little bit higher than on the slide that you had, Francesca, but this isn't a problem. So it's about, in total, almost about 1.7 million. We're quite a big consortium, actually, at least for the projects I know. It's about 15 partners from 6 countries in total. So the focus is on Portugal, Italy, and Greece. But we also have a few partners from Belgium, Germany, like Climate Alliance, where I'm working from, and Spain and Croatia. And of course, you can find even more infos if you're still looking for them after this presentation on the website. Just to show you, we've already mentioned that, for example, Eden is our project coordinator at Plan for Cold, but there's really a number of organizations working for Plan for Cold, a lot of energy agencies, but also other organizations. You can see, for example, we have the Technical University of Crete as well, but also, for example, Federen and Climate Alliance, which are more focused on city networks. So just to start a little bit, I think if a bit more on the challenge and context that Plan for Cold wants to tackle. If you're in this webinar, I think that probably I don't need to tell you that heating and cooling are responsible for a very significant part of the EU's energy demand. So the decarbonization of this heating and cooling sector is really crucial, especially for the carbon neutral goals until 2050. And where Plan for Cold, kind of the key aspect that Plan for Cold has a look at is that in Southern Europe, there's different demands, or you can say that cooling plays a larger role than in other European countries. And specifically the prognosis is that the cooling needs will rise significantly. So this is an issue that will have to be dealt with. It always sounds so easy when we say it in presentations, but of course it's not that easy in fact transforming the heating and cooling sector. So on the one hand, we have a large number of stakeholders involved. On the other hand, a large number of barriers as well, which can be completely different types. It can be more technical barriers, political, legal, and social barriers. It's really a big task. And then we can say maybe the second point or the second aspect that Plan for Cold is really centered around is the Article 25 of the Energy Efficiency Directive, which makes it necessary for municipalities with more than 45,000 inhabitants to develop local heating and cooling plans. It's very important to note here that there's a few countries that have already transposed this article into national law, but at least as far as I know, this is not the case, for example, for the countries focused in Plan for Cold, so Portugal, Greece, and Italy. Then now the question is, how will Plan for Cold actually tackle these challenges or this context? So the main aim of Plan for Cold is to support a number of pilot municipalities in defining sustainable local heating and cooling plans, which result from these requirements of the Energy Efficiency Directive. The aim is to provide a number of resources, tools, but also capacity building. And a number of cities in Italy, Greece, and Portugal that I will show you in a moment, so-called LEADES cities, will on the one hand serve as role models for others as well, but also on a more general level enable a number of policy recommendations, how it can be made easier or better to define local heating and cooling plans. So here in this slide, you can see the pilot municipalities that Plan for Cold will be working with in Portugal, Italy, and Greece. And then you can see there's also, we call them follower cities. And we have Siero in Spain and Rijeka in Croatia. So you can say that these are associated municipalities within the project that will directly learn from the experiences that the pilot municipalities are making in the project. Yeah. And then that's to say the main outputs. This is of course related a bit to the aims of the project. The main outputs of Plan for Cold on the one hand will be to have a methodology to define and operationalize sustainable local heating and cooling plans. Ricardo and Chiara will have or tell you a bit more about the methodological approach in their part of the presentation. Then I also already mentioned the tools and resources that Plan for Cold aims to develop and specifically to adapt and develop them, taking the reality and needs of Southern European cities into account. And finally, when developing these 10 exemplary sustainable local heating and cooling plans in collaboration with local and regional authorities. And finally, closing off, because there's different projects within this webinar as well, different project partners or consortium partners. Just to say that, of course, in general, we're very happy if for other stakeholders to also join efforts with us in Plan for Cold. So please do feel free to contact us if you have any topics or webinars that are going in this direction, to join in that case. But also, for example, I think this would be interesting for our project if you have existing tools that you think it might be interesting to talk with in Plan for Cold, or that it might be interesting to promote these towards the pilot cities, please do contact us or the consortium. And now I pass on to Ricardo and Chiara for the methodological approach.
Thank you, Alicia. I should have taken the control now of the presentation. Okay.
Yes.
Good morning, everybody, also from my side. So, yeah, Alicia was introducing the methodological approach of the Plan for Cold project. So basically for us, one of the key pillars of the project is, of course, the collaboration between the different stakeholders involved. So in particular, this acronym you see, which means local and regional public administration. So of course, regional and region and municipalities, for example, and of course, also a series of other stakeholders, as Chiara will show you later. Then we also foresee a big part of the project for the knowledge transfer, and so for building up skills and expertise on this topic, which is a very new topic, especially for many of the countries involved in the project. And then the analysis and also the adaptation to the local context, of course, of the municipalities which are participating in the project, of the existing approaches and tools. So from our point of view, the key topic of our project is that we are aiming at a real implementation of activities at local level. So we have 17 target municipalities. And the nice thing is also that there is a good geographical span, even if they are focusing in South Europe, and also a wide range of different conditions, as we just analyzed in our initial survey, let's say. And so they are highly representative of the area we want to examine, which is the Southern Europe. So we have basically two key pillars. One is vertical, which means basically act at local level to reach real local and heating and cooling plans. So preparing the ground for this work and then really making the change on the territories we are addressing. And then there is a more horizontal pillar, I would say, that also aims again at building up skills, capacity, knowledge transfer, and dissemination. So regarding the first part of the work, we are trying to set the scene really for developing these heating and cooling plants. So we are aiming at creating a solid base of knowledge. How? By making an assessment of the national, regional, local context regarding heating and cooling in general. The activation and the engagement, once again, this is really a peculiarity of our project, of key actors and local stakeholders. Of course, the analysis and the detection and analysis of available data on the heating and cooling demand. If there are some good practices about heating and cooling planning, and of course also the assessment of existing tools and resources supporting the potential planning by the municipalities. And these last 2 points are very important because, of course, we won't start totally from scratch. Let's say it's a niche topic, it's a new topic, but anyway, there are already some experiences, especially in the forerunner countries, for example, Germany or Denmark. Okay, about capacity building, we will develop quite soon, I would say before the summer or during the summer, some guidelines providing a general methodology for the development of these plans. We will develop also a toolbox collecting customized existing tools and resources for, again, supporting the development of these plans. And then we will have a lot, as you see here from the numbers, a lot of capacity building initiatives, usually trying also to make these initiatives tailor-made depending on the local context, because these initiatives are targeting pilot municipalities. And then we aim at a broader public, let's say, by doing some webinars organized at regional level and then at national level. So again, our main goal is really making the change in Southern Europe on the topic of heating and cooling plants. For involving the stakeholders, as I was saying before, we will set up local working groups, which are called the local community of practice. And then the last step is to co-create, to co-design these heating and cooling plants together, or I would say within this community of practice. So again, the main actor is the municipality, but all the local stakeholders will be involved in the development of this plan. So it should be something really shared by the community, let's say. Then we will prepare some best practices for the development of these plans, and of course, again, some policy recommendations to local and regional authorities in Southern European countries. Now let's transfer within and outside Southern Europe. So we are, of course, not aiming only at our area, let's say, as Alicia already showed, we have 2 follower municipalities in Spain and Croatia. There will be a national stakeholder advisory group, and then there will be, again, to go beyond the project boundaries, let's say, there will be 2 transnational workshops to further identify 3 additional replication cities. And here we really want to target areas which are outside of the scope of the project, so North, Central, and Eastern Europe. And we will have, again, 3 national working groups in this part. And then I already told you that we will prepare, let's say, a policy recommendation document for Southern European cities, but we are also aiming at developing a more general policy recommendation report, again, for giving recommendations to cities which are also outside of our area. Okay, having said that, this was the, let's say, the aim, our wish, but now Chiara will tell you exactly where we are with the project activities.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you to be here today. Well, good morning from a really shining Milan today. So let's have a focus on activities, ongoing activities, and let's say outputs and results already achieved from the project. We are now, at the moment, we are in the preparing the ground, setting the scene and preparing the ground phase. We started in October, so we are at the beginning of the project, but many activities and really interesting results have been achieved. So we have already prepared the ground, let's say, by scouting the local heating and cooling dynamics in local municipalities, and particularly we analyzed in detail the reference policy and strategic context, both at national, regional, and local level. So we analyzed all the regulations, legislations, and all the plans concerning energy and particularly heating and cooling, and at different levels, so that we can build a general framework for future activities, and we are trying to build up the framework of our future heating and cooling plans. And we directly involved the municipalities. They were directly involved. It was not so easy. It was really hard work, but they reacted very well, let's say, and they started cooperating with us. In this slide, I tried to summarize main outputs coming from this first step of the project, the first assessment of the the local context. So as Riccardo has already said, in none of the project countries, but you know this very well, Article 25 of the Energy Efficiency Directive has been transposed in national laws yet. And the national regional policy and strategic frameworks, we can say, are more or less aligned to the European 2050 climate targets, of course, but the role of the heating and cooling sector is not always clearly identified and defined. And no specific related regulation and supporting measures are foreseen both at the national and regional level. But of course, we have different situations from one country and one region to the other. And another point is more or less all the municipalities involved have adopted a SEAP or SECAP, so they have an energy strategy, and they set some energy targets, and but in general their awareness and knowledge both on their strategies, let's say, but particularly on the heating and cooling sector is not so so deep. So the awareness is not so so wide, let's say, and so they do not exactly, I can say that there's no a clear awareness on what is heating and cooling. So let's say, but in general, strategies, plans, and so on do not consider the sector in a specific way. So the heating and cooling sector has not a specific role in the local and energy or urban and territorial strategies and plans. Let's say this is a point, a starting point for us, very important, because this is the starting point for our future activities. And as Riccardo has presented before, we also worked with municipalities in engaging the local communities and the local actors and stakeholders. And in all municipalities, a good and strong activity has been have been developed on this side, and all municipalities have more or less mapped key stakeholders and actors and get in touch with them, engage them, and they at the moment developing a kind of survey with them, just to collect information for them and to understand their possible role, interest, and awareness. So I listed some of the main key stakeholders identified by all the municipalities. More or less all the municipalities selected the regional authorities and other local authorities and other municipalities as key stakeholders to be involved in the planning process. Also, they identified as really important actors, the business, support and trade associations, research organizations, of course, actors from the energy sector, so energy utilities, energy providers, and plant managers. And so I can go on. Then, at the same time, this is a really challenging task, let's say. We started with the municipality a really particular but really important activities concerning the evaluation, the detection and the evaluation of the already available data information on heating and cooling energy needs and demand in each pilot municipalities. So this is an ongoing activities. Will be completed within the end of June, let's say, more or less. It's quite challenging, let's say, but the idea is just to detect the data, the information, As for some main categories and the climatic data, data and information concerning final consumptions of fuels and energy sources, including renewables, of course. And also we are trying to detect and collect information about the heating and cooling final uses and markets. Let's say concerning, for example, the diffusion of plants, of technologies and equipments, the diffusion of certain type of refurbishment of intervention and something like that. So the idea is just to also understand the level of efficiency of the local, of the territories and the local energy systems. And then the idea is also to analyze the data, the sources of data and the data provided by the sources, and to evaluate their quality. So we will analyze the type of sources, the availability and accessibility of the data. So are they for free? Everybody can have access to it. We have to pay a fee, or only some kind of subjects can access the data, only public authorities or a technician, let's say. Another important characteristic we want to detect is the aggregation level. So to understand how data are provided, divided, aggregated by sector, the residential sector, the tertiary section, or subsector, something like that. And also another important point to detect is the frequency of data information, yearly, monthly, and so on. So the idea, all the patterns and all the municipalities will fill in some specific fact sheets, and then we will collect them so as to have a reference basis on which to prepare tools, the methodologies and the tools for the development of the heating and cooling plants further on. Then, as we said already before, in each municipality, the relevant actors and local key stakeholders have been mapped and reached, and also engaged, consulted. The aim is just to complement the context analysis and the heating and cooling data assessment. Of course, they can be a really precious source of information and data. The idea is also to detect the level of awareness of key stakeholders and local actors and their know-how with respect to climate change issues, energy transition, and heating and cooling decarbonization issues. So to understand the level of awareness and knowledge, know-how about the issue necessary to develop our heating and cooling plants. Then the idea is also to detect their potential interest and role or contribution in the heating and cooling planning process in the future, because the idea is that to select the members of the community of practice to be set later on, and that will be a working group supporting all the phases of the planning process. So they will be directly involved in the preparation and the development of the heating and cooling plants in each municipality. Then where we are. So another important activities ongoing, let's say, but Riccardo said before, we do not want to start from scratch, but of course to learn from already existing experiences, measures, or tools directly connected with heating and cooling and heating and cooling plants or heating and cooling demand analysis. So we have detected and assessed already existing tools, methodologies, and measures that could support our municipalities in preparing the heating and cooling plans. And we selected 5 main categories of tools and resources. You can read in this slide the planning software, binding energy, simulation tools, and renewable simulation tools, and so on. Then we have defined 13 criteria for the evaluation of these tools, of the tools we collected, that we identified as collective. We consider, for example, the applicability of tools, the suitability for heating and cooling planning, user friendliness, the technical know-how required for their use, and so on. And then, on the basis of these criteria, we selected a preliminary list of tools and measures, and we underwent a SWOT analysis, trying to identify strengths and weaknesses of these tools. These tools will be shared with our municipalities, of course, but in future activities, these tools will be in some ways implemented and customized according to the needs and the characteristic of each municipalities. And but they are a really important starting points for the preparation of our heating and cooling plans. That's it from my side. I hope I have quite clear, and of course activities are going on, and within June we'll have guidelines. We will be able to prepare some detailed guidelines for the development of the heating and cooling plans. This will be the basis for our municipalities, but of course they will be shared for all other actors and municipalities interested in this process. That's it from my side. Thank you for
you.
attention.
Thanks a lot to all of you, Alicia, Riccardo, and Chiara. It's very nice to see a lot of synergies actually, and similar aspects and activities that you are doing or you are going to do in your projects, at least for Ready for Heat. Now we will see if it's the same for CoolLIFE, and we look forward to seeing the guidelines and the next steps of your projects. And if anyone has any question for them, for sure you can write them already in the chat, and we will read it later. Otherwise, also we can wait the Q&A section, and we can move forward with the presentation from CoolLIFE project. And here today we have Jean-Sébastien Brock. That is, he has about 20 years of experience in analyzing and evaluating energy efficiency policies. He's working as a senior expert at the European Energy and Climate Policy Institute, and since 2017. He's also board member of the Energy Evaluation Association, organizing the Energy Evaluation Europe Conference. And in the CoolLIFE project, he's leading the work package on policies and regulation for sustainable space cooling. So just, Jean-Sébastien, if you want to take control of the presentation.
Sure. Thanks a lot, Francesca, for the introduction and for the invitation to present about CoolLIFE this morning, which will nicely complement the presentation, previous presentation about Plan for Cold. As you said, in CoolLIFE, I'm more particularly working on the review of policy, and that's what I will present today. But before jumping in the topic of policies relevant to space cooling, maybe always good to remind why it is an important issue to consider, and why it is important to consider already now, I think, because we often hear that energy consumption is increasing, and maybe it makes that people think it will be a problem in the future, but it is already a major problem, and especially as explained by the colleagues from the Plan for Cold project, especially in southern countries. And maybe the main issue here is not so much in terms of energy consumption, because the share of space cooling was very small initially. So even if you see here an increase of more than 200%, 200% of something that is very small remains small, especially compared to space heating. So for the moment, in most countries, space cooling still represents a few percent of the energy consumption in buildings compared to space heating that will be 60% or much higher depending on the countries. However, if you think in terms of health, as you can see on the left side of the slide, it is a major issue that especially heat waves are causing extra deaths, and that's one of the most the critical challenge from the climate changes that we can see already now, and the same for the risk on the electricity system. And you have already seen maybe heard of risk of blackout or blackouts in Greece or Italy in the recent years, for example. For the same reason, if you look at the definition of energy poverty in the new Energy Efficiency Directive, cooling is included among the basic needs. So it's important to make it clear that having decent comfort in buildings in summer, that's not a luxury reserved to the wealthiest, but that's something needed for everyone. And especially because we know that the vulnerable groups are also the ones that are the most affected in case of heat waves or too warm summers. About this, I will refer to the Cool to Rise project that investigated more about summer energy poverty, because that's not my focus this morning, but that's an important topic. So now switching more to the general policies relevant to space cooling, I would like to start with having a look at the EU policy framework and how space cooling is addressed in this framework. So if we start from let's say the more micro level, the equipment of devices, you have more specific measures in that case, because the energy labeling and eco-design regulations are specific to given devices. So there are regulations specific to cooling devices, cooling products, as they are called in this legislation. And then the more you go in an aggregated level, the less you will see the importance of cooling, just because of what I explained earlier, that obviously space heating is much larger than space cooling in terms of energy consumption. However, it is covered, but it remains covered mostly in theory compared to the practice that will be much more focused on space heating. And in parallel, you have also the adaptation policies that address space cooling, mostly through the anticipation of extreme weather events like heat waves or the climate changes in terms of warmer summers. And that's also in these adaptation pieces that we will see that urban level is better covered, which is quite important as discussed by the colleagues from Plan for Cold, and that's why also the new provision on local heating and cooling plants is quite important. So looking at the demand side, so the cooling needs and cooling demand, here the main objective is to ensure the comfort of the building occupants, considering different types of building use and also different way to use the equipment of the buildings. And you normally, also having in mind the energy efficiency first principle, we should start by trying as much as possible to reduce the cooling needs, and that's what you will find in the policies related to buildings, improving the energy performance of the building envelope, for example, ensuring an optimized use of the ventilation and so on. Then there especially in southern countries, you cannot really completely avoid some cooling needs that need to be covered by cooling products or fans. And in that case, the policies will aim to guide the market toward the most efficient products. That's the principle of the eco-design regulation, the energy labeling also. Also having in mind the issue of refrigerants that have a very high global warming potential. So that's the role of the F-gas regulation in that case. And in the middle, you have also the important role of policy measures for behaviors to ensure an efficient behavior of the building occupants and also an optimized use of the building and the equipment. And that part, let's say, is more up to the member state to arrange. Then looking at the supply side, so the supply side of cooling and energy, here the two main objectives is to improve the efficiency in the supply, which is covered by the provisions in the Energy Efficiency Directive to require member states to prepare comprehensive assessment to identify potential, especially for district cooling, for example. And then the other side is to increase the share of renewable in the supply of heating and cooling. But we should remember that the vast majority, if not almost all, the cooling is already supplied from electricity. So that's a completely different challenge compared to heating, because the dominant technology for cooling is the vapor compression systems. Which means that in that case, the issue is more about renewable electricity rather than renewable cooling. Still, there is a potential to develop district cooling and the use of geothermal energy. And for that, I will refer to the Cooling Down project that was more specifically focused on that. Then if we go to a higher aggregation level, the objective is to achieve a kind of integrated planning. That's the, let's say, umbrella or overall objective of the governance regulation of the Energy Union and climate action through the process of the national energy and climate plans that put the same timeline progressively. So now we are almost there. The same timelines for the main planning documents, the main strategic documents, which include the comprehensive assessment I mentioned earlier, but also what was before the long-term renovation strategy that are now the national building renovation plans, and the assessment of the renewables potential. Also, possibly, whenever possible, linking with the adaptation strategy. So it was not all completely aligned for the latest exercise, the final NSP updates due last year. But normally for the next round, which will be the draft NSP for the next period that are due in 2028, all these planning should be prepared together, and hopefully that will favor better integration between the supply side and the demand side, for example, which is in line with the energy efficiency first principle as well. I will not comment too much the local level because it was discussed already quite in detail by the previous presentation about the Plan for Code project. But definitely that's super important as well, especially for addressing effects such as urban heat island, which is not explicitly covered in the EU policy framework. I mean, it's mentioned in communications of the Commission, but there is no direct provisions in the EU legislation about that. And I would mention here a good practice that has been developed by the French Agency for Ecological Transition, ADEME. That's an online platform. The translation in English is Couleur My City, in French is Plus Fraîche Ma Ville, which collects a lot of good real examples of good practices already implemented by cities in various domains, various type of actions. And it's very easy to navigate, and that's, I think, a very good example of support that the national level can provide to local stakeholders. Then quickly, I will present the CoolLIFE tool, which is one of the main output of the project, as introduced earlier by Francesca when presenting the project. So it's now available online, so you can already play with it if you want. And there will be a training next Tuesday. I will put the link in the chat. I really encourage you to subscribe. In 1 hour, a bit more than 1 hour, you will have a tour of the 8 modules and what you can do with them. And especially, as mentioned before, it is meant to help with addressing the data gaps and the difficulty to start. So it does not replace specific specific study or assessment that you can do at local level, but it can help you to have some kind of benchmark and starting point. And to focus on the policy module, those are the ones we developed about the review of policies. Here is the type of information that you will find there. So information about the policy background in the country, how the planning processes are managed, how space cooling is addressed in the building regulations, a reminder about the EU regulations for space cooling systems and projects, and a short list of financing schemes, because there is another module where you have more details about the financing schemes. And it was meant mainly to address two questions. How is space cooling addressed in the national energy and climate policies in your country? And then how is it in other countries to facilitate benchmarking? You will find two main outputs from this module. One is information you directly see in the tool, so you can directly visualize that from the tool in terms of summary information. And then for more details, you can download one Excel file per country that provides you information about what is included about space cooling in the national energy and climate plans, in the comprehensive assessment, and so on. So what's next? Now we are in the phase to prepare policy recommendations. We have already identified a number of key issues, and we are working on that. We are also collecting some more good practices that will be prepared in the next week. And there will be a series of training sessions as well. I can come back to the key issues later if you want, but I see that the time is running. And again, I encourage you to register for the training next Tuesday about the tool. That's a very nice opportunity to get familiar with it and to see the potential. And if you want more detail about the work we have done on this review of policies, you can look at the report that is available on the website. Thanks a lot.
Thanks to you, Jean-Sébastien. Thank you. And yeah, again, a lot of synergies also with your project. It's true that you are more focused on cooling, and it's good to see that, yeah, there are many projects working on that, because as you said, as is it's not usually taken as the first aspect maybe to decarbonize it compared to heating is already urgent to do activities and to develop activities to face it. And subscribe to the training next week. Very interesting to see it. And yeah, thanks again for sharing it. I will now pass to the last speaker of today, which is Saverio Papa. Saverio holds a bachelor degree in international relations and human rights from the University of Padua and a master degree in European studies from King's College London. He moved to Brussels in 2019 to work on new climate and energy policies. Prior to joining EHPA, Saverio was working at the Solidarity Europe for 2.5 years. Where he was able to gain a solid understanding of the challenges and opportunities to decarbonize the heating and cooling sector. And he joined the European Heat Pump Association in February 2025 this year as head of energy policy. So Saverio, if you want to take control, you can start.
Yeah. Thank you, Francesca. Thank you for the introduction. You should see the next slide, right? Yeah. So I will be very brief on the project. You already introduced it. So Ready for Heat is a 3 years project funded by the LIFE program, which runs from October 2022 to September 2025. The overall objective is indeed to support the implementation of key provisions on heating and cooling, which stems from the Renewable Energy Directive and the EED. The previous speakers already talked about them. We do so by supporting the development of a more comprehensive approach to heating and cooling in the NECPs, and notably by focusing on 5 target countries, which is the main aspect of the project. We focus on these 5 target countries, which are Croatia, Greece, Germany, Poland, and Portugal, and also 3 replication countries, which are France, Belgium, and the Netherlands. The project coordinator is Cress. And there are 12 partners overall. We have 5 national energy agencies from the 5 target countries. Then 6 Brussels-based associations, which represents the renewable heating and cooling solutions, but also the municipalities, and then 1 consultancy that is Trinomics. Yeah, in short, the activities of the project, the aim of the project is to assess the heating and cooling measures in the existing NECPs, identify key success factors, and then develop practical tools to support policymakers and also practitioners that are drafting these measures, but also delivering them. So in the next few slides, I will very quickly go through 3 work packages that are critical to the activities of the projects. Before, I will just mention that online we have quite some tools. You can find them in the Ready for Heat website. And of course, this presentation will be shared, so you will have also the link there, but I guess we can also put it in the chat. Starting with the first work package that started the activities of the project. This is work package 2. Which was in charge of assessing the heating and cooling dimension in the NECPs of the 5 target countries. And based on this, we identified some key takeaways that you can see listed here. First of all, that the renewable penetration in heating and cooling is not growing fast enough. As also mentioned by other speakers today, there is now a binding target in the Renewable Energy Directive for the share of renewable sources in heating and cooling. This is a very promising step because before this target was only indicative, but it's still an insufficient step in that the target is not ambitious enough quantitatively. The second key takeaway was that heating and cooling decarbonization is a multi-level effort. This is also why also the other 2 projects are talking so much about the local dimension. Heating and cooling has a very strong local dimension, and there's also a very diverse pattern of energy consumption in heating and cooling across member states and regions. So we really need tailored decarbonization strategies that engage multiple actors across all levels, from the EU to the national and also the local level. The third takeaway is that we need a more comprehensive approach to heating and cooling. Assessing the NECPs, we observed that first that there is often an insufficient focus on the heating and cooling sector, but there's also often an uncoordinated approach to heating and cooling. And this is probably also because the measures are often addressed under 2 different chapters, 2 different dimensions. The first chapter of the NECP normally addresses the decarbonization dimension. The second chapter addresses the energy efficiency dimension. We saw also in the previous presentation that when it comes to heating and cooling, these 2 aspects are really intertwined, so they need to be addressed together. And last but not least, the last takeaway that I wanted to mention is that we also assess the comprehensive assessments on heating and cooling. This is another requirement stemming from the Energy Efficiency Directive. And by doing that, we observed, first of all, a very diverse level of granularity in the data provided across the different member states. But overall, we can say that all member states lack sufficient data on heating and cooling, which is critical to inform the measures on heating and cooling. Moving to work package 3, this then proceeded to produce a non-comprehensive list of key success factors for effective measures on heating and cooling in the NECPs. We started with 55 best practices that were then narrowed down to 11 shortlisted best practices with dedicated fiches that will be prepared on them. And based on these 11 best practices that were assessed more in depth, the consortium managed to identify some key success factors, such as having mandatory local heating and cooling plans, a ban on fossil fuel heating systems, the cooperation among all the relevant stakeholders, etc., etc. and then based on this also identify strategic policy priorities for heating and cooling decarbonization, a short list of possible priorities. And also based on this, we developed a renewable heat transition toolbox, which is one of the tools that you will find online in the Ready for Heat website, and that aims at helping very concretely all the policymakers and practitioners working on these policies at national and regional level. Now moving on to the last work package that I will present in detail today. This is work package 4, which is the main ongoing work package, and it's in charge of delivering the last step, which is a crucial step of the strategy of Ready for Heat. This work package, of course, builds on the work done by the other work packages and puts into practice the lessons learned by developing recommendations, but also exchanging with the people working on these policies via capacity building events. So the first step was that each of the national energy agencies that are part of the consortium selected 3 strategic policy priorities out of the list provided by work package 3. And then for each of these strategic policy priority, we are now working on 5 concrete measures, 1 at national level, 1 at regional level, and 3 targeting the city level, so specific cities. And for this, we will also prepare detailed fact sheets, but this is just, of course, the deliverable, the outcome. The process is that by developing this, then we also move to the next phase, which is capacity building. So we have several events in the form of workshops, events, targeted meetings, where we, of course, present these deliverables, but we also exchange with the people working on them and the people that we expect to take inspiration and also follow up on these suggestions. And so we are building a very, and we are carrying out a very rich program of capacity building activities throughout the life of the project. Yeah, so I will leave you with just one slide, one last slide, which is just why is the work of Ready for Heat relevant? When, of course, as I said, the aim of the project is to support a more effective but also a more coordinated action to decarbonize heating and cooling in the revised NECPs. And to this end, we thought that there were 3 critical aspects that we wanted to target. First is the collaboration between the EU, the national and the local level, which is mirrored in the consortium composition, let's say. The second aspect is the strong focus on the local level, which, as I said before, is really critical to having effective decarbonization policies of heating and cooling. And last but not least, the third aspect is the development and the dissemination of really hands-on tools, so practical tools that can be really used by policymakers and practitioners. And for this, that's also why the capacity building program is not just there to share the results of the projects, but also to get the inputs from the people that work on them and really build something that can be useful and can be used by all the practitioners all across Europe. And with this, I think, I conclude my presentation.
Okay, thanks a lot, Saverio, also for presenting Ready for Heat and all the work done during this more than 2 years and a half. So yeah, we are now approaching the end of the project. So yeah, it's good to see how we will wrap up the work done by all the partners and what are the additional results that we will be able to gain. And so yeah, with that, I think we have closed with all the presentation from the projects, and we can maybe pass to the Q&A section. So if you wish to switch on your camera, as someone has already done, please feel free. If the audience wants already to start writing the chat, the questions, please go on. Otherwise, maybe I will start with a first round of some questions that we have prepared, and maybe I will start from the first presentation. So for the Plan for Cold consortium, maybe we can go back a little bit to the question of the 45,000 inhabitants municipalities. So regarding that aspect, I will ask how will municipalities below 45,000 inhabitants, so the ones that are not obliged by the directive, behave with respect to heating and cooling plans? I don't know who wants to answer, be amongst Chiara, Riccardo, and Alicia, but please go on.
Yeah, maybe I can say something about that, and then of course if Alicia and Chiara want to complement, that's perfect. Yes, that's a good point. I remember that when we were writing the proposal, we were also addressing this fact, because of course, let's say to increase the impact of this provision, it should involve as many cities as possible, let's say as many municipalities as possible. On the other hand, of course, smaller municipalities usually don't have the capacity to perform these tasks. So of course there is the risk of doing these plans in maybe just in a very standardized way without doing a serious work, let's say. Our hope is that really starting from the obliged parties, which are these larger municipalities, then anyway the culture of planning also for heating and cooling will also spread down, let's say, to the smaller municipalities. And so also the work we are doing, for example, with the guidelines. So the guidelines for preparing a good heating and cooling plan, of course, are not only addressing large municipalities, are addressing municipalities in general. So this hopefully will be, let's say, a good tool for these municipalities, maybe the most, the pioneers on that. Even if they are not obliged, they will want to develop this local and heating and cooling plans. And of course, another point is, together with the guidelines, another point which Chiara was underlining in her presentation is the availability of good data. So if we have good data about heating and cooling, for example, at regional level, and then also smaller municipalities can easily access this data, then of course their job on that would be much easier. So our hope is that, again, starting from larger municipalities, this idea of the heating and cooling plans will also spread to the non-obliged parties, let's say. I don't know if Chiara or Alicia, do you want to add something to that?
I'd like to add a few points. Please consider that in Europe, the majority of municipalities has less than 45,000 inhabitants, so they should be considered. And also the directive says at least municipalities with more than 45,000 inhabitants. So the idea, I think, will consider this point, how to enlarge, let's say, the plan for core message to other type of municipalities. This will be really important. Maybe for small or medium municipalities, the best path could be the aggregation, the joint strategy. Joint strategies, let's say, as the covenant of measure, the joint SECAP, let's say. But of course, this point will follow us during the preparation of our heating and cooling plans, and particularly in the policy recommendation we will prepare at the end of the project. But this would be the second step, and maybe a follow-up of the project. But we should consider that the majority of the municipalities in Europe are small or medium municipalities. So a way to also we should find out a way also for them, and maybe plan for cont and all the other projects dealing with this at the moment should be able to provide good hints also for them.
Okay, thank you very much. Maybe one last question for you regarding steel plant for cold. So there are, for example, some countries or regions that have already made a step forward in heating and cooling planning even before the national transposition of the Article 25.6. So there is like some examples that you have already in mind, or?
Let's say historically, Denmark had a heat planning law, which was maybe also one of the reasons why this directive included this article on the heating and cooling plans, and this was also linked to the fact that in Denmark district heating, for example, is very well widespread. Another, I think, pioneer experience was the one in the state of Baden-Württemberg in Germany, in the south of Germany. And in general, as far as I know, for the moment, Germany is the only state who really transposed the article of the directive. So I don't know all the details, but they are already in line, let's say, with the directive. What I also recommend is to have a look at the tracker on heating and cooling planning, which is online on the website of Energy Cities. And there you can find more information about how the different states are, let's say. But you see, really a few green light, maybe not even one green light. So that there is really a lot to do on this.
If I can add some points, some municipalities, big municipalities in Europe, started thinking about that and preparing really detailed strategies, but even if at the national level there's no transposition law, let's say, for example, the municipality of Vienna, they worked hard on that, and they have a really good heating and cooling strategies, also tightly connected with the heating and cooling, district heating and cooling networks development. So this could be, they are really big as a city, but really efficient, and they can be a good example. But some other small municipalities, for example, particularly in Germany, started work on that before the directive transposition, let's say. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. And maybe I will pass a little question to Jean-Sébastien. So for what concern CoolLIFE. So I'm curious to know actually who are the target user of the CoolLIFE tool.
Well, it's very broad. Because you can use it, I didn't explain it when presenting it, but you can use it as different geographical scale. So from net 1, net 0, which is the country level, until the hectare level. So that can be a very specific. So it can be used, let's say, if I'm a member state, I would like to get some starting point on benchmark when I'm preparing my comprehensive assessment. So maybe that's for national energy agencies or consultancies supporting the energy ministries, for example. That can be used, we hope also, and there are already contacts with Plan for Cold on that. It can be used to support local heating and cooling plants, typically in the same way, to make some first roof assessment of the cooling needs, identify the potential for district cooling in areas. So that can be very useful for municipalities for that to locate the cooling density in their territory. And it can be used more generally by any stakeholders involved in promoting, developing, or implementing space cooling solutions. We discussed earlier the issue of data, so that's a way to get easily some climate data, etc. So it might not be as specific as a local study, obviously, but let's say that's a good starting point and a good benchmark that you can get to start your analysis and maybe to see where you need to focus your effort if you want to make further analysis.
Okay, yeah, that's clear. Thank you. And maybe a last question for you. So you have spoke a lot about policies. So in the space cooling sector, have you seen an evolution in the policies to relevant to space cooling in recent years? And would you be able to identify good practices about the policies that are actually relevant? So yeah.
So for everything related to the market of cooling products and systems, as it is regulated at the EU level through the eco-design and energy labeling regulations, you have this usual cycle. So it's planned in advance. You have a work program to revise and to update them. So that's very, let's say, structured. Then for the building regulation, it's definitely up to the member state to adapt them according to their own timeline to meet the minimum requirements set in the APBD. But there we see a lot of differences, and there have been, especially in the countries where space cooling is more important, so in South countries, we have seen clearly more attention paid to space cooling requirements in this building regulation. And what I think is interesting is that there is a number of countries now considering a requirement in terms of limiting the discomfort. Okay. That could be over the year, so considering winter and summer comfort altogether, or that could be focused on the two periods separately. So for cooling, that would be limiting the number of hours of discomfort in summer period, which is, I think, a clever way to push the building designer to limit the cooling needs, considering the new standard of weather. And we can see that, for example, in the French building regulation, where they have updated the reference climate data that building designer needs to consider when they model the energy needs of their new buildings, to include, first, warmer temperature overall, looking due to the time series considered, but also to include at minimum one period of heat wave. Which is critical when you assess this part of the minimum hours of discomfort, which means, in other words, the minimum hours where you will really need either to find a cooling place elsewhere or to have some air conditioning system or other cooling system for your building.
Okay. Thanks. Thank you a lot also for the explanation. And so maybe we can pass to the last question to Saverio regarding the Ready for Heat project. So yeah, you have talked a lot about the NECP's plan. So yeah, how could the NECP process be improved to accelerate actually the heating and cooling decarbonization? What do you think is is a good start point for that?
Thank you, Francesca. So I mean, the NECPs are, as you said, like the focus of Ready for Heat. It's important to know first what they're for. So they do not introduce requirements. For example, also when they indicate the target for renewable heating and cooling in each member state, that is coming from the Renewable Energy Directive. So the purpose of the NECPs is really to provide a comprehensive strategy and a comprehensive direction to decarbonize heating and cooling. And this is something that we saw is overall still missing. We must highlight that it's a relatively new process. It started in 2019. Like, this is only the second iteration of the NECPs, but because they are revised every 5 years, we cannot just wait until member states learn by doing in 20 or 30 years. Then the second aspect, which is a bit critical, is that you must have the NECPs, and we saw that there were several delays in submitting the draft, but also the final NECPs. To this day, there are still like member states that didn't submit the final NECPs, despite the deadline being passed for like by quite a few months now. So we know that the Commission is already considering, they announced it in the Affordable Energy Action Plan, to revise the governance regulation that is the basis of the NECPs. So that could be a welcome exercise if it leads not to deregulation and so but simplification of the NECPs. Also, I think Jean-Sébastien mentioned or like indicated in his presentation, many of the requirements that stems from different pieces of legislation. We have a comprehensive assessments on heating and cooling. We have the national building renovation plans coming from the PBD and many others. The more we like member states address these requirements as a tick the box exercise and they just write a nice report or even not nice report and they put it in their drawers, the more these are completely useless. They're just wasting everyone's time. Like, these must become really a useful exercise where member states sit down like with all the stakeholders involved. And this is sometimes the problem when it comes to heating and cooling. They must engage the local authorities. Even the consultation with the local authorities, for example, it cannot be a simple consultation done just because it's indicated that you should do it and you don't really care about the results of that. So they really need to look at these NECPs as a meaningful exercise. And then once that's a given, then yes, sure, like we can, the Commission should look into how to make the NECPs drafting simpler and to make it easier also for member states to fill in. But member states, and that's the bottom line, and I'll conclude, needs to commit to the fact that that's where you indicate also to the stakeholders how you want to decarbonize the sector. They need to believe in the plans.
Yeah, thanks a lot also for your reply, and we hope the member states will will do it. And okay, so if there are no other questions, I think we can slowly go through towards the end of today's webinar. Maybe I will just share the slides to thanks, of course, all the speakers, and if the public has found this information useful and want to stay updated with the project and the rest of activities coming, please simply follow them on social media, have a look on the website, check out all the tools and the tools online that has been presented this morning. And yeah, if you want to participate to more events, of course, in EHPA, we usually organize this kind of webinars and workshop for the project we are collaborated in. So feel free to check them out on our website, and the majority of them are always online. And you will be able to find the recording, the presentation, and we are going to send a follow-up email to all the registrants. And yes, with that, I will thank you again, all the speakers, and I will leave you a little bit earlier to your lunch break. And yeah, thanks a lot again. See you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Have a nice day.
Bye. Have a nice day. Bye bye.